Otto von Bismarck once said that there are countries that produce more history than these countries can consume. I precisely come from one of those countries, Nicaragua, a country that has suffered foreign invasions, civil wars, and in fact, the last civil conflict took place in 1980. When I was just 12 years old, my mother took the most difficult decision a mother could take. In order to save my life during the Civil War, she asked me to start a journey towards the United States. So I became part of the first wave of unaccompanied minors traveling from Central America to the United States. I crossed the border, the river between Mexico and the United States. And after spending some time at a refugee center, the authorities found a foster family for me to spend time. But in 1990, hope came back to Nicaragua. We had the first free and fair elections. Mrs. Chamorro won the elections and defeated the Sandinista front, and I returned to Nicaragua. A few years later, in 1997, after completing college, I was offered my first job as part of the Disarmament Commission. And my first project was precisely to go to these areas and communities that had been completely destroyed by war. I was completely struck by the amount of children, adults, women mutilated by landmines. And as a 20-year-old civil servant, of course, I was struck by pain and curiosity. And I asked the disarmament expert that was working with me, a military officer at the time, why so many mutilated people? And his response struck me. He said, landmines are not designed to kill. They have just the exact amount of explosives to mutilate in order to cause enormous pain. And I asked why. I said, well, it's very logic. Because a mutilated soldier, a mutilated combatant, causes greatest pain to the troop. Uh, and also, once this person has been mutilated, the cost of reinsertion are higher. That stuck with me for many years, but a group of activists from civil society organized around the intention to ban landmines through the activities launched by Jody Williams, the Red Cross, and in 1997, the Ottawa Convention was approved. It was the first time that a disarmament treaty was able to be approved through the activities and advocacy of civil society and not of governments. Many years later, I started to work as a human rights defender once I had completed 10 years of civil service in disarmament. And I found another extreme inhumane weapon, political detainment around the world. Today, more than 1 million activists around the world, mostly in China, but also in countries like Cuba, 1,500 political prisoners, Venezuela, Nicaragua, Zimbabwe, Uganda, and I can continue the list of about 50 countries in which autocrats are using political detention as a new political weapon. What I've discovered through the research and long interviews with family members is that just as landmines are designed to create immense pain, political detention creates the same effect. Political movements, human rights organizations, once one of their activists is arbitrarily detained, are forced to deviate their attention to their policy issues, to entirely focus on their relatives who are in prison. Based on that, we partnered with the World Liberty Congress, with World Movement for Democracy, the University of Virginia, and many other organizations to create Pathway to Freedom, which is a handbook for the liberation of political prisoners. The analogy and similarities with the anti-personal landmines is striking. They're both designed, these types of political weapons are designed to create immense emotional pain, to distract, and to force, in this case, activists to put all their energy in the release of their political prisoners. Of course, we have some tools, the norms of the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, we have the Mandela Rules, but dictators have become more sophisticated. They have been able to manipulate some of these treaties. So one of the things we are trying to do is to promote, based on the inspiration of the Ottawa Convention, an international treaty that tackles the issue of political detention and political prisoners. We have created this movement, and I'm asking you to join in this movement. We have a website, arbitrarydetention.org, in which you can be part of this global movement. It is important to remember that dictators, autocrats, do not release political prisoners because they want to. They release political prisoners because they're forced to. And the greatest fear of a political prisoner is to be forgotten. I know that for personal experience. I experienced 21 months of extremely painful political detention. I didn't see my family for almost 4 years. My wife and my family were forced to go into an ordeal because of my imprisonment. And thanks to the relentless work of my wife, who created an international campaign, I was able to be released. Dictators tend to tell families that if they are quiet, they will release their prisoner. That is a lie. A prisoner journey towards freedom is international advocacy. Do not forget political prisoners. Join our movement. Thank you very much.